that's how the idea came to my head. Like, we are literally playing this game in corporate America. And I think what happens for us, unfortunately, especially for Black women, is we are never told that it's a game.
Right. We don't know the rules until 10 years into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's what was interesting to me. And that's how it came to me. And then of course, as I'm kind of teased this idea out, I'm like, well, if it's a game, what kind of game is it? And of course I'm thinking, well, the most complicated game, the most heady, thinky game is chess. And I knew nothing about chess, but I knew that when I'm thinking through it, I'm like, you have to think 10 steps ahead. When we are in the corporate spaces as Black women, we don't ever just speak. We actually look in our head in that nanosecond, we actually look at all the possible scenarios of what happens if I say this versus this versus this before
Right.
before we even utter a word.
Hey, I'm Tine Zekas, your pivot and pay strategist. I help Black women double their income by leveraging their existing skills. I am all about getting Black women paid, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. I'm your host, Tine Zekas, your pivot and pay strategist. I am so excited for today's guest. We are going to be diving into a conversation all about what it is really like in corporate America for Black women. We're going to be talking about the real stuff. We're going to talk about when the work starts to impact your physical and mental well-being and what you can do about it. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest. Nicole S. Palmer is a best-selling author, founding partner of independent publishing company Delnick Media, and host of 5-star rated podcast Black Womaning in Corporate America. When she isn't writing, she's speaking, and she's usually talking about race, identity, and equity. Okay, well, I am so stinking excited to talk with our guest, so let's just get right into it. Please welcome Miss Nicole S. Palmer. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
And thank you for being here. I first learned about you through my colleague Mercedes' podcast. For those who don't know it yet, it is the Career Love podcast with Mercedes Swan. Look it up. It's fantastic. And I was listening and you were on there talking about your story. And it was so unfortunately relatable. And then you spoke about one thing that I know I want to get to where I just thought, oh my gosh, I have to talk to her. So we'll get into all that. But first I'd love to start with, just a little about you, sort of what your background is and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, so much for having me. I'm super excited. I am Nicole S. Palmer. I am founding partner of Delnick Media, and we're an independent publishing company focused on amplifying underrepresented and marginalized voices. And so, a little bit about me, or what I like to call my origin story.
Yeah.
I've actually been freelancing since 1997. I'm fully showing my age, but that's okay. Still look good. So that's
Hey, Black don't crack. We're out here doing it.
And so, yeah, I started freelancing in 97 after actually one of the students at the writing center in the college I attended, I was helping them with their paper, and they were like, "You're so good at this. You should get paid for it." And I thought, I should.
Yes.
And the rest is the same history. So I started doing editing and writing I had my own clients and started working with other organizations over time. Of course, I was still in corporate America. So freelancing was always something that was kind of like in the background,
Sure.
but it's never something that I really gave up. And so, I had my little, funding, with the solo entrepreneur thing. I was doing that way back before it was a thing. I don't know even know if it was being called that at the time.
Right.
Entrepreneur, but that's what I was doing. And so I did a lot of that work over time, but I still actually was very much in corporate America. So while I was there, and even through the volatility of the market, having the freelancing was 100%. Looking back, I was like, that was probably one of the smartest things I ever did.
Yeah.
Because even as the bubble burst in '08 and all those things that happened, I still had something to fall back on. And it's something that I've always done. And so then recently, kind of fast forward to now, my last corporate job was something. And actually, I got really sick. I went on medical leave. And while I was on medical leave, I decided I would write a book.
Yeah.
And I did. And the book is called Playing the Game While Black Women in Corporate America. And I actually published the book last November under our publishing company. It's our flagship product.
Congratulations.
And, it became a bestseller. So that was kind of nice, a little bit.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey, but I'm super excited about it. I think it's really, I'm leaning into my purpose. It's what I really believe in this day and age. Finally, I stopped running from it. And so we officially incorporated our company, Delmic Media, last year. And we launched online this year. So even though we've been around for forever, and actually the company's named after my husband, the first two letters of my name, first two letters of his, creates Delmic because we're savvy.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and so we've been around for a while, but we finally decided to make it official and really get out there and really start actually pursuing what we've been wanting to do, which is to actually amplify the voices that we really hear from. In the publishing space, especially, we're super underrepresented. The number of individuals like us that actually get not even just publishing contracts, but actually get their message out into the world is completely abysmal compared to our counterparts. And so we wanted to do something about it. And, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh, what a fantastic origin story. I want to touch on a few things because there was so much there. And for you, it's just your life. So you just say it like it's nothing. So I want to highlight some things for our listeners because it's a big deal. I mean, one is just sort of, OG, you were out here doing it before it was a thing, that kind of side business that ended up being such a huge support when things got unpredictable. Or maybe predictably bad, right? But when things were volatile, you had something to fall back on that is huge. The book, I want to talk about the book. We're definitely going to be talking about Black womaning in corporate America, but you just sort of dropped, it's a, bestseller, those kinds of things. Like, girl, you did it. Well, and even backing up from that, someone said, you should be getting paid to do this. And you said, you're right, I should. And then you went and did it. Because so many of us undervalue our skills, especially if it's something that comes naturally to us. And, but it's just a thing. Anybody could do it. No, I should be getting paid for that. Let me go do that. I love it. I love it. And then, and incorporating the business with your spouse, amazing. I love to see the support of a partner and you all are in it together. That is fantastic. So I wanted to highlight a few things from that story because it is fantastic. And then the piece about amplifying the voices that are not usually seen in the publishing space is incredible. So you and I are going to need to talk. I do have one book in my back pocket, but I'll be hoping to add to the collection. So maybe we'll need to talk.
Simply.
But I do want to kind of go back to that experience in corporate that led to, as a lot of us can relate to, some physical impact, right? That the stress from our jobs, the things that we go through in our jobs that impact our bodies in addition to our mental well-being. So as much of that story as you're willing to share in this moment. Well, you wrote a book about it, so I know you're willing to share. But if you could just sort of give us the overview of what that experience was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially as Black women, we have this just innate tendency to overachieve. It's kind of something that's just kind of part of who we are.
Yes.
And so as I was in this organization, and I think that's the part that's really interesting, I was there for 10 years. And I mean, I would have completed, I would have, it was there for 10 years and made my 10-year anniversary. So it wasn't something that happened suddenly. And I think that sometimes we can mistake that and say, well, how could it be? I've been here this entire time. Well, it depends on the circumstances, the
Yep.
new individuals that come into the mix. And that's literally what happened. I was there, happy go lucky, going up the corporate ladder, multiple supervisors that I reported to over the years. And then the last 2 years, there was a reorg at they call a reorganization where they just shake up a bunch of stuff and move pieces around,
Yeah.
right? And so this reorg happened the last 2 years that I was there. I got a completely new supervisor. And what was interesting is that I thought that I was kind of the person who's going to be taking over the department, and it was kind of just understood. And everyone made the assumption, right? And
Yeah.
then what do? No, they bring in the other person, put you underneath them, right? So you can be the foundation and you can hold them up, but then who gets to train them?
Yep. Yep.
And that's
Mhm.
literally what happened. But they told me all of the things. Oh, you're great. You've done everything you need to do. The rest is up to us. So I believed them. And so I poured my heart in because I knew it's like, okay, I'm next in line. I'm going to do all the right things. So year one went pretty well. And then I think I got comfortable, right? Because I started, I kind of let my guard down. I was a little bit more relaxed.
Sure.
And I did the thing we never should do, which is to put our supervisors in a kind of friendship position, right?
Mm.
And so, and I talk about that. Well, not directly here. We'll be talking about it, but we'll talk about that later. But basically, the bottom line is your boss is not your friend, right?
Mm.
And whenever you get into a position where you think that's the case, you put yourself in danger. And so she also was treating me with that level where she was asking me for advice on things. And I remember that she was going to make some decisions within the department that were going to be detrimental. And I thought, well, hey, we have this cordial relationship. You're texting me about this. So I thought, well, that's a bad idea. Don't do that.
Yes. And you felt like you could give that feedback candidly. Yep.
Well, it's after hours. We're, texting back and forth. You have my cell phone. I have your cell phone. You're telling me this is what you're thinking. Well, obviously, you want my input. So I gave my input.
Yeah.
She was looking for a yes answer. She wanted me to affirm the decision. She wasn't looking for me to say, here's why it's not a good idea. And that's when things
Yeah.
fell apart, right? So year one, everything's great. I got a great rating. And then year two, when I started saying, when I started feeling like, okay, we're comfortable, we can have these conversations and saying, here's why this doesn't work,
Mhm.
then it became a problem. And so guess what happened? Had to threat. So
Sure.
I'm no longer the rock star, right? I'm no longer the person that gets it all done.
Mhm.
Now I'm a problem because I'm showing you that I'm being candid, right? Because I'm thinking you want me to be candid and really let you know. What did they
Mhm.
say about Black women with the canaries in the coal mine? You know,
Yes.
we see things like miles away. And then we'll say, here's why that's not a good idea. Well, what do they do? Well, no, I just wanted you to say yes. I wasn't looking for you to contradict me. I just wanted you to agree so I can feel better because I value your input. And when you don't agree, then the problems begin. And so
Mm.
that's literally what happened. And so from the moment I said, that's not a good idea, it went the other way. And so
Yeah.
suddenly, things were tense. We weren't having those great conversations. Things just went sideways. What
Mm.
really, really came to a head is we had this one meeting, this one on one, where things were just by then completely falling apart. And I was being, left out of meetings, the usual stuff that they love to do, right?
Yep.
And so I remember saying in frustration, with tears streaming down my eyes, I do, saying that this is the worst level of communication I've ever experienced in my entire time there. And all she heard was, you're the worst boss I've ever had. That's all she heard. And immediately she decided, okay, now I'm going to make sure that I'm going to destroy your reputation, is essentially what she decided to do.
I'm going to live up to being the worst boss you've ever had. Yep.
100%. And so she actually started going around behind my back to individuals that actually I had relationships with, actually dig up dirt. And these individuals were coming to me saying, hey, what's going on? Why, am I getting these kind of questions?
Mm.
And then I went on for the first time ever in my entire career, but certainly there, had the worst performance rating I've ever got. And that's what it took. And I think that's what sometimes we don't understand as Black women. We can hold everything up, right? We're holding up the world in our respective organizations. And it's not that it's in a healthy way, but the thing that sometimes keeps us from burnout is that one thing, the one glimmer, right? That just like, well, at least there's this. Everything is on fire. We're the dog, sitting at the table with the coffee, everything's burning. And then we're like, this is fine.
This is fine.
That is
Yep.
us, right? But then suddenly, if you take the coffee away, it is not fine. So it's just the one thing. And so it wasn't okay. I was doing way too many hours. And then you gave me the worst performance rating. That was the one thing I was holding on to.
Right.
And it all fell apart for me because I could no longer hold it together because now you're telling me I'm doing this by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing everything I can. I'm overperforming. I'm putting in triple digit hours on average per week.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're telling me that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And so I literally, what ended up happening is when I found out that I had a performance rating, I tried to challenge it with HR. They upheld it, of course. And right after they upheld it, like the very next day, of course, she was to, do her victory lap. And so she decides, as soon as I log in, she pings me, hey, let's connect really quick. Because, now I'm just feeling vindicated, hey, I won, right?
Right.
And so she, you want to rub it in, right? And so I'm having a conversation with her, and I noticed that my watch is telling me, we notice your heart rate is elevated, but you're not doing any activity.
Right. Why do you seem like you're exercising? Are you having a heart? Are you having a cardiac event? Yeah.
Right. And so throughout the day, that continued to happen because she scheduled multiple meetings because, again, like now, hey, I've got carte blanche, right?
Right.
And so finally my husband said, we need to go to the hospital. Just bottom line. And so I did because I thought I was having a heart attack. I did.
Yeah.
And I had someone who has those types of symptoms. And so I go to the hospital. They do a battery of tests. And then at the end, the doctor's like, well, we couldn't find anything wrong except that your white blood cells are elevated, your white, right? And she says there's only two reasons that would be infection or stress, and you don't have much.
Right. Your immune system is trying to fight off a threat.
And that was so sobering for me. And so I went on medical leave because I realized my body was literally saying, you cannot do this anymore. You have no reason to hold on anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to stop. And if you don't want to stop on your own, we're going to stop for you. And so I did. For the first time ever in my entire life, I took medical leave from my job. And this is, someone who, even when I'm on vacation, I wasn't on vacation.
Yes. Yep.
And then here I was. I went on medical leave because I had no choice. And even that was just a terrifying experience. But I did it. And in that time frame, halfway through is when I finally came to grips with maybe I can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still thought I was going back.
Right.
That was 100% the idea. But it's like you go through those stages of grief, like you're fully in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit in denial for a while.
I was with you 100% on this story until one thing. You said you went on medical leave because you had no choice. You did have a choice. Some of us experience those physical symptoms and still stay.
Oh yeah.
You made the choice to listen to your body. And yes, your body tried to remove that choice. Your body tried to say, hey, we're done. But I just want to honor you. And it's weird because I don't know you, but I'm proud of you.
No.
Right? Like the story you're telling, so many of us have experienced different pieces of it, right? Obviously your experience is your own, but so many of us can relate to each of those pieces that you described. And we don't always listen when our body says, hey, we're done with this. So I just want to express kudos to you and to your husband for saying, hey, my watch is lighting up. Like, that's not normal. We need to go to the hospital. And now that I'm there and they're saying it's stress, hey, let's act on that. and remove myself from that situation, because it is not easy for someone who's giving 100 hours a week to their job to say something else is more important than that. So I apologies for interrupting. I just wanted to
No,
highlight
honestly,
that.
I appreciate that because I think sometimes you forget to honor those decisions that you made. It's
Yeah.
because you're so busy stuck on like all of the things I did wrong and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas,
Mhm.
and you don't think to yourself like, man, but I got out.
Right. Well, and we
I
think so much of our story is the stuff that happens to us, which removes all of our agency, right? But we also can make decisions within that. We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond.
yeah, I 100% agreed on that, and I
And
think
then
even yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that not only did you remove yourself from that situation, then you wrote a book to help other Black women do the same thing, right? That I'm just, that it's the impact on you was obviously significant, but then you decided to expand that and help others to see those signs, to see those things, so maybe they can leave sooner. That's
Oh,
huge.
absolutely. I hope so. And I think that what's funny is that, when the book came to me, I remember I was going on a walk because one of the things that I was being told, I went to a therapist for the first time ever in my life. And I was really just really leaning into like, let's really dig into what's going on here. And I'm going for this walk. And as I'm on this walk, I'm thinking, like reflecting, playing back the tape about all the things that were happening, right? And I said to myself, like, this was so, like, everything that happened was so ridiculous. And I can't believe this happened to me. And they treated it like it was just a game. And it's like, and that voice in my head is like, yeah, it is a game. And I thought, huh. And so I literally, as I'm walking, that's how the idea came to my head. Like, we are literally playing this game in corporate America. And I think what happens for us, unfortunately, especially for Black women, is we are never told that it's a game.
Right. We don't know the rules until 10 years into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's what was interesting to me. And that's how it came to me. And then of course, as I'm kind of teased this idea out, I'm like, well, if it's a game, what kind of game is it? And of course I'm thinking, well, the most complicated game, the most heady, thinky game is chess. And I knew nothing about chess, but I knew that when I'm thinking through it, I'm like, you have to think 10 steps ahead. When we are in the corporate spaces as Black women, we don't ever just speak. We actually look in our head in that nanosecond, we actually look at all the possible scenarios of what happens if I say this versus this before
Right.
before we even utter a word. And so that is how we're always conducting ourselves in corporate America. We always know that a certain look or a certain response or a non-response is interpreted as something.
Right.
And so that's why it was important to me. And I said to myself, if I can help one woman, one Black woman, just help them out so that they don't realize it as far into it as I did, I
Yeah.
will have accomplished my mission. And it's apparently helped way more than just one.
Yes. Yes. You set out to help that one woman, and obviously the impact has been way greater than that. And so I think it's incredible what you've done. I've never done this before, but I'm I'm so into this conversation, and there's another whole topic I want to talk to you about. Would you be up for like a two-parter?
Yeah, of
If you
course.
do you have a little bit of time and we can keep it going, because I'm watching the clock, and I want to keep um sort of a unwritten promise to our listeners, right? That there's sort of an amount of time we do on these episodes, but I have too many questions for you.
Let's
So,
go.
all right. So this is part one. We're talking about Black womaning in corporate America. And then folks will stay tuned for part two, because we're going to be talking about um, securing work through agencies, which I really want to dive into. But before we get into that, I want to ask you how that situation ended. So you said you thought you were going to go back. Like how long was your leave? Like what was the process when you decided you're not going back, and what did you do instead?
So my total leave was 6 months. So I
Okay.
actually went on medical leave. So just based on the time, I think it was like August timeframe, September-ish.
Mhm.
And then halfway through, more like end of December, early January, that's when I thought, I can't actually go back. There's no way I can go back because the job is literally killing me. And so once, by then I was fully into, writing the book and all of those things. And so then I decided let them know I I can't, I'm not recording. So that was actually towards the end of January, right tail end,
Hmm.
really the tail end of when I was supposed to return.
Yeah.
And so, we had just written conversations. Because by then I decided I would secure an attorney and all of that just to protect myself. And so we tried to come up with an agreement. And I will say that I think that's also why it was important for me to write the book the way that I wrote it, is because a lot of us don't know. There's like, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And
Mm.
unfortunately, a lot of times when we do find out, it's too late. And so I filed an EEOC claim because I did feel like there's a lot of that happening was discriminatory, among other things.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize is that I should have filed it while I was still there. And I didn't know I could do that
Mm.
because no one told me that. And so
Right.
I didn't realize that when I was passed over for a position I was essentially already doing, I could have filed a claim for that because I
Right.
was the most qualified person. I didn't know I could do that. And
Hmm.
I didn't know that they could intervene and actually, do some type of mediation. And actually, if they found in my favor, they would have had to amend the appointment. I didn't know I had those kind of
Yeah.
rights. And so by the
Hmm.
time that I started the claim, the clock had run out on most of the egregious things that they had done to me.
Mm.
And that's what's unfortunate. And I do put that in the book because I think what's so important for us to realize is that the EEOC claim, the way that it works, it's not, the clock doesn't start when you file the claim. The clock starts when the incident happens.
Mm.
And a lot of us don't know that. A
Right.
lot
You
of
got
us
passed over for that promotion, and then a year went by before things even started getting bad. Right.
And
Mm.
so I should have filed it then. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of us don't know that in some states you only get 6 months to file a claim. Not
Wow.
every state gives you 300 days, which is almost a year, right? Like
Mm-mm.
you have to know the laws from your state. DC
Right.
gives you 300 days, but not every state gives you that. Some states only give you 6 months. And again, 6 months, you sure you can file it after the fact, but really, if you miss your window from the
Hmm.
time the incident happens, it's 6 months from the time the incident happens,
Yeah.
not 6 months from the time you decide to file.
Right.
And that's such a very important distinction. And a lot of us
Mhm.
miss out on that. And I certainly did. And
Yeah.
so by the time that I filed my claim, most of the incidents had already lapsed. The time had already
Hmm.
passed.
Hmm.
And so, yeah,
So I wonder, for people who are listening to this and are saying, okay, she secured a lawyer. That's not something I can do. What what do I do? Like, what advice do you give to someone who is just saying, how do I get informed about what my state allows? Like, how do I learn about this stuff if I can't afford an attorney?
yes, I did a lot of homework. So I did research. I looked up the EEOC for my state. I studied it. And also, y'all, ChatGPT is your friend.
Hmm.
Like, don't sleep on ChatGPT because it at least will point you to where you need to go. I'm not saying take what it tells you as gospel, but you can say, here's my situation. Can you give me some resources I can look up online?
Hmm.
So that's number one.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and sorry to interrupt, but with ChatGPT, you can ask and give me the link for your source
yes,
so I can look at it
absolutely.
myself instead of taking whatever it says, taking its word.
And the other
Mhm.
thing too, one of the things that was really a huge help for me is that we actually already had a service called prepaid legal. And so that's what we use. I think it's called Legal Shield now. And so
Mhm.
we essentially pay $30 a month to have an attorney on retainer. And so that means that they will write attorney letters for you. They will draft a will for you. They will evaluate cases for you. We actually use them for a different situation where we actually were able to actually get our money back for a very exorbitant with a big name company that I'm not going to name because we actually had a settlement.
Yeah.
But this was just a simple attorney letter that they wrote on our behalf, explaining why it was that they deserve, that we deserve to get our money back. And they're real attorneys, so they know the law. They know that that manufacturers have a certain window in terms of remedying situations for customers. Consumers
Yeah.
sometimes don't realize that it's not just 1 year. It's actually 3 years. So there's specific things that they know. And they're paid to know that. And
Yeah.
so yes, they, if you have to go to court, they do a prorated hourly rate, but you can have consultations with them for $30 a month. So that's what we did. And
Yeah.
so we already were paying for that service. And we said, we have this situation. What do we do? And so they will write a demand letter for you. And that's the approach we went with. And then we decided, do we go with another attorney? Do we keep pursuing it? So,
Mhm.
and that again, $30 a month. So it's not like we were paying like some like exorbitant fees for that.
Right.
And you can start that now. And at the very minimum, like you can at least get some legal advice to where to go. And if
Mhm.
they want, they can refer you to an employment attorney. And they did do that for us. What I decided is that because of the fact that a lot of the more egregious violations were outside the window, it wasn't worth it for me to pursue it in court.
Mm.
And so I decided to just let it go. But that's why it's so important. The moment it happens, file the claim. The moment it happens, file the
Yes.
claim.
Yeah.
The moment it happens, file the claim. It is so critical because time is not on your side. And I'm
Mhm.
even now in this space, and this is what I'm grateful for. I don't look back and with bitterness, like, oh, I wish this, and like I should have gotten this. And
Yeah.
I recognize, and I've said this before because I really believe it. Sometimes you have to go through the hell that so someone else doesn't have to.
Mm.
And and so that's how I look at it as. I
Yeah.
look at it as this is my ministry. Like I wasn't able to get the claim, but somebody else can. I can help someone else.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that. People have been reaching out to me on LinkedIn and they're telling me, like, here's my situation. Like, here's what you don't do.
Yes.
Like, don't do that.
Right. Don't do what I did.
No, well, I'm
Mhm.
thinking of doing this. No, don't do that. And so, and I talk about that in the book, and I talk about the fact that HR is not there for you; they're there for the company. And I need people to understand that. And I
Yeah.
know how HR gets in their feelings
Mm.
when I feel like we're coming for them. That's just the fact. They're not there for the employee. They're 100% there for the employer, and they're there to mitigate liability. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything needs to be in writing. In fact, there was something that I had gone to HR when I filed the complaint about what happened with me. And I met with them and they were like, you agree that you're not going to record any of this. This is
Mhm.
not recorded. But of course, I'm pretty confident that they were recording. So keep that. And the other important thing was that as I was talking to them, telling them about some of the discriminatory things that were happening to me,
Yeah.
and they said, "Oh, so well." They asked you questions. Well, do you wanna report that? I said, "Well, I don't want to talk about it right now, but I want to focus on this." They cited that and said, "Well, she never filed a formal complaint." Even though I told them about it, because
Yeah.
I never filed a formal complaint, they
Right.
said, "Well, that doesn't count."
Mm.
They will 100% use your words against you.
Yeah.
So hear me when I say do not, under any circumstance, have any offline conversations with HR. And if they insist, look, we don't want this recorded, that's fine. You do a recap. Or hey, secure a representative to actually have those conversations with you. And
Mhm.
some of that can be done through the EEOC. So I just need us to be smarter about it. And not I'm not saying this in a demeaning way. I need us to know we have agency.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't know that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women that I was surprised to hear that didn't know that they can go on medical leave for mental health reasons. That is 100% a protected thing. You go on medical
Right.
leave. It is
Right.
mental. That is your brain. Your brain is an organ. It is part of your body. That is physical. And I think we
Yes.
think that these are thoughts. Oh, that's not real.
Yeah.
It's It's in your brain, and that
I
is
have never heard it put that way. Your brain is an organ in your body that is your physical health. Ah, absolutely.
100%. And
Yeah.
so, and I think, that we have this, not just the stigma behind it, right? Because there's a whole stigma behind mental health, but
Mhm.
even just like, oh, but does that count? Because I'm having if your brain is so sick to the point that your heart is out of control, that you cannot catch your breath, that is physical.
Yes. Yes.
That is not in your head. And well, in some ways it is. And then something that I learned that was very interesting during this journey is that I was told, and it really was sobering, but also in a weird way comforting, is that
Mhm.
when you have an anxiety attack, the symptoms are indistinguishable from a heart attack.
Mhm.
They're identical. And
Mhm.
so you have to think about that. An anxiety attack can kill you.
Right.
If
Right.
the symptoms are indistinguishable, what does that mean? Your heart will be erratic the same way. It will be out of control the same way. You will have very similar symptoms, and I think that's why they talk a lot about that. And I don't know the statistics, but how many Black women, go on to have like undiagnosed like heart attacks and either, you know, that are fatal just
Right.
because they're thinking, oh, I can push through it. Oh, it's just my anxiety.
Right.
Or
We
it's
normalize those feelings. And even I've heard that women in general um, ignore that pain. I read somewhere that the the pain of like cramps is like comparable to the pain of a heart attack, which is why when a man experiences it, he's like, I'm dying. But a woman is like, this is the kind of thing I am expected to work through for days on end every month. Like that's and so we're conditioned to ignore those things in our body when they, as you said, the job can literally be killing you. And we are conditioned to work through it and push through. And I just want to say one more time for the people in the back, because you said it 3 times. I'm going to say it one more time. File as soon as the incident happens.
yes,
And I do want to leave it there for this episode, and folks can come back for part 2. But before we close out, I just want to remind folks the book is Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America. And Nicole, where can folks find you if they're looking to connect or learn more?
so I live on LinkedIn.
Beautiful.
Like literally. And so my LinkedIn, I just had a really loud horn. I don't know if you heard that. so
No worries.
I live on LinkedIn. My profile name is Nicole S. Palmer, my full name. And also website is NicoleSPalmer.com. I try to make it really simple. If you
Perfect.
do Nicole S. Palmer, you'll find me pretty much everywhere, except Facebook.
Perfect.
Facebook and I have a very complicated.
Fair enough. And we'll put those links in the description as well. But thank you so much. And I'm really excited. We're going to keep the conversation going
Yes.
for the next episode. But
Love
for
it.
now, for folks, thanks for joining us. And be sure to catch us next week for part 2.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, subscribe wherever you're listening now. And if you love what you heard, be sure to leave us a review. And make sure you share this podcast with the incredible Black women in your life so we can continue getting Black women paid. All right, we'll see you in the next one.